The first question. As you know, the main function of the CAPD committee is to undertake reviews of state parties' reports on CRPD implementation and adopt concluding observations with recommendations. A number of state reviews, even second reviews of some states, have shown limited understanding of the human rights model of disability and specific CRPD human rights standards, as well as limited advancements in CRPD implementation by states. In your opinion, what are the main obstacles and challenges ahead for a better CRPD understanding and implementation by states? If elected, how would your expertise and competencies contribute to combat and overcome those obstacles? That was the first question. I read now the second question of the substantive block. Second question. As you know, the CRPD committee has already adopted 8 general comments and is working on a general comment number 9 related to Article 11 of the CRPD on situations of risk and humanitarian emergencies. If elected, and given the current development and implementation of CRPD standards, which topic or topics you believe should be addressed by another future general comment? Please explain the rationale of your suggestion.
But discrimination resulting from ignorance and lack of information, for me, is perhaps one of the most limiting, especially regarding recognizing the numerous capabilities of children, young people, men and women with disabilities. Another challenge is the absence of specific local legislation that guarantees all rights in accordance with the convention. If elected, I will be able to use my expertise, and furthermore, if elected, I intend to work to strengthen social participation and independent monitoring of the convention by people with disabilities through their representative organization, as well as debating the allocation of resource for the committees. Experts can carry out on-site visits to monitored countries, and I will support the parliaments of the states parties to draft laws that incorporate the convention into national legislations. And the second question, finally, I understand that the committee should address the right to health, Article 25 of the convention, in a future general comment. Without health, no one can live home and exercise their citizenship. Therefore, the access to health care is the first step we must take. Public health agenda must take prevention and early diagnosis for diseases in consideration. Furthermore, people with disabilities have the right to equal access to other health services. A woman in a wheelchair, for example, must be able to get to an OB/GYN clinic with little or no assistance at the time. So it's also worth mentioning that the challenges in preventing impairments and sequelae caused by rare disease. There are still very few treatments available in the world. So using innovative technologies makes a huge impact to the quality of life of the person and their family, and not only topic.
Like I was saying before, the time of the crisis expands, and applying the inclusive politics are forgotten by the states. And that's why I think that a lot of leaders went backwards in the implementation of the human rights policies because of the pandemics. And now the challenge of human resources, the capacities, we need great capacities, great technical knowledge to be able to convert, to change this convention into the national politics and the ideas of national politics. And I think that the social obstacle is the greatest one, because it's a barrier that makes us think on how are we going to define the strategies to combat all these challenges. Because there are great obstacles, social obstacles, when we talk about the people with disabilities. I would also like to talk about the topic regarding the non-existence of the sensibilization and the knowledge about the convention, the existence of the convention. And even in the civil societies organizations, they don't even know the convention and the topics about the convention. And all those leaders that helped the world to create the convention, there was a great knowledge that went through the world that helped in the creation of the convention. And these great minds gave birth to this convention that was helping the people with disability. And that's what we have to see now. We need to have leaders that are going to push the convention forward. And that's a challenge that we have to face. When we talk about the implementation of the convention, we need to know how to live together.
Well, thanks once more for the possibility of explaining my views on this very important issue, first of challenges. I think there are challenges of different nature. First of all, there are it's a matter of insufficient resources and capacity of the treaty bodies, of the committee, including the backlog that it is on the interactive dialogues and the reporting cycle. The major challenges for implementing the CRPD also include the insufficient awareness and understanding of the human rights of persons with disabilities in other treaty bodies and limited competencies of the policy actors for the expertise required to identify solutions. I think the committee needs to put more efforts in providing practical guidance for support and advancing in the CRPD, the coordination with the other treaty bodies, and really, I think the early involvement of persons with disabilities through the whole reporting cycle. I think we need to put the focus on good practices and solutions for the practical implementation and to maximize the support to the state parties because they have made this commitment for implementation. Increasing the presence of the committee in the state parties itself to accompany more the process, developing guidelines. When it comes to some specific areas, I think it's important to clarify how to follow the assessment of disability following a human rights approach. There are also some technical issues related to statistics, data collection, to facilitate the development of accessibility, for example, and more guidance on the relevance and interplays of the CRPD with other global key challenges, digitalization, migration, and cases, but also other UN processes like the Pact of the Future. Thank you.
I could speak for a long while, but in this very short, brief time, I think that the style of the committee itself, let's look at it from the perspective of the committee. I think that it needs to be more active and to provide more realistic guidance. We need to take into account the real political structures and culture in the countries that we're looking at in order for the recommendations that we provide to be effective, to be efficient. And regarding the countries, the implementation of the convention in the countries, I think it's a matter of coordination, improving the coordination. It's not really coordinated and implemented efficiently everywhere. In different countries, there are different mechanisms for coordinating the implementation of the convention. And in many countries, this mechanism of coordination, the mechanism of implementation isn't really efficient. I think that we need to put our heads together to think about it. What is it that we can do to improve that? How can we provide a mechanism that would really be efficient, that would be as such applicable for everyone, taking into account the specifics of each countries? For the more efficient operation of the committee, I think that we need to speed up the revision of the reports from various countries, and the insufficient human resources are what make it impossible. I think we also need to work on that in order to, let's say so, to not spend so much time looking at the reports and to provide timely recommendations, because otherwise it takes loads of time. That's all I can say within 2 minutes. I don't know what else I
Good to see.
Thank you very much. So first of all, I would like me to analyze the challenges. As a member of the committee, I noticed if I can divide all the states when they are in front of us in the dialogue. So some of the states still based on the perspective and stay on the perspective of charity and not fulfilling the rights of persons with disability, which is a huge problem. They think that it's something like a luxury, that sometimes you can give the right, but when it's not possible. So they are the one that the person with disability are stay in the back, are not receive the right. As a country, think that it's really nice to be part of the convention, to ratify the convention, but in fact it doesn't do so much things in the country. And when we're doing kind of a dialogue with them, they give us a lot of information that sometimes it really covers the real situation in the state. And the last, if I can divide it to different kind of country, it's about a country that really have an issues about economic issues, and really think that the fact that person with disability will have a better life in their own country based about economic issues. And then for that, I think the fact that I am a person that came from the ground, first of all, I can analyze, and I work a lot in my country to promoting certain of a law. And I know the way to discuss with the state, the way to ask them the right question. I think the question about the lack of information and collecting data, it really proves what the place of person with disabilities is in the state, how much they collect data about them. And another issue, which is for me, it's extremely important, is the involvement of person with disability in the discussion. And for that, I'm really putting a lot of effort. I did it in my previous candidacy, and I will do that, I hope, in my continuation. The part of person with disability being part of the discussion and to receive the real picture about what's happening in their own state. We give only 2 examples for that. When we did the guidelines for, Mr. George spoke about the practical, a lot of persons spoke about practical, that can, because we wanted a very basic guideline to help to the state, but we really need to be looking forward and to talk with persons with disability, to be part of this guideline. When we talk about, we did a report about the situation of persons with disability in the war between Ukraine and Russia. We talk with persons with disability online because this will give us the better picture about what's happening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And there are a number of challenges that I can highlight. The whole issue of the backlog. Over 70 states parties reports are due for consideration. The whole issue of negative attitude of individuals towards persons with disabilities. And indeed, the issue of the conflicts and tensions that are emerging as a result of the human rights model that is entrenched in the CRPD and the antiquated welfare and medical models of disabilities that are being practiced by countries. Clear and present danger for the implementation of the CRPD. And definitely with my background in research, with over 30 peer-reviewed journal articles and 4 books that have been published on disability, chronicling the situation of persons with disabilities, there lies within some solutions to deal with these problems, and I intend to continue to push for these challenges to be remedied at the CRPD in the next term. I also want to highlight that we definitely need to have a general comment on Article 29, which deals with political participation and public life where persons with disabilities are concerned, because persons with disabilities, 1.3 billion individuals across the world, we have rights. We can impact on the decision-making processes of government and force government to implement the CRPD. And I say that I will be pressing more for the general comments on Article 29, which we are currently examining the possibility of implementation in the next term. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Then we'll answer the specific questions. First, let's address the barriers to a better understanding and application of the CRPD. I strongly believe that the main barrier lies in the lack of persons with disabilities in government, executive positions in each country, coupled with inadequate procedures to ensure their participation in policymaking. If elected to the committee, I will seek to engage in dialogue with each country to discuss the inclusion of persons with disabilities in the executive branch and in policymaking. Secondly, regarding the general comment, I believe that a general comment. Secondly, regarding a general comment, I believe that a general comment on communication and language is imperative. The UN General Assembly has passed a resolution emphasizing the importance of easy to understand communication. Moreover, there have been opinions expressed for a general comment specifically on sign languages among OPDs. Therefore, I strongly urge a general comment on this issue. I believe this is very important. And thank you again for your time and your attention.
For having given me the floor. I would just like to say something about challenges, and I would like to tell you something about my life in the committee within 3 years. What we haven't learned during the exam, we needed actually to make it a tool of understanding in this convention. This is why we need to place the accent on our role of the committee in order to advance the understanding of the convention in the states during the examination. The Article 8 and the sensibilization are very poorly implemented in different states. The role of the states and of the organization of persons with disabilities is feeble. when we talk about understanding, we should raise awareness and achieve a better understanding of the convention. And that understanding should not be only at the level of the committees, but also on the national and international level. We also need to advance the role of people who are accompanying partners of a person with disabilities in order to have a better understanding of the convention. If we talk about mainstreaming the convention, we need to know that all the parties needs to have adequate instruments in order to disseminate their ideas, because actually a better understanding.
There are lots of obstacles and barriers that is facing the CRPD that needs to be addressed. Number one, about implementation.
Mediocre.
The law.
Mediocre.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, please continue.
Yes, I said the challenges are enormous, and then of the CRPD that needs to be addressed. And most of the challenges is challenges of implementation and of the laws and the acts that are promulgated in various states, and the inability to follow up by the disability organizations and state parties to ensure that these problems are handled and implemented. So that's one of the major reasons why we are having these challenges, and these challenges needs to be addressed. And secondly, we need to engage more on advocacy, sensitization, and making sure that whatever that is agreed upon is followed to the latter for its implementation. And going by that, we observe that most countries are not carrying people with disabilities along. The policymakers should engage people with disabilities because you see who wear the shoes that know where it pinches. But for some of the policymakers are not persons with disabilities. They are not all inclusive when it comes to challenges that are being faced by people with disabilities. So what I'm saying in essence is that if I'm elected in this committee, I'll do my best to ensure that there'll be a follow-up to carry all people along, avoid discrimination, ensure that education and work and employment will be issued for people, will be given out to people with disabilities globally. Thank you very much.
As a CRPD is one of the international agreement that has been enacted on a peaceful way, that we are facing with a lot of challenges, but I will try to answer from the second question to the first. As a member of the committee, I think that I can contribute in the CRPD committee to empower citizens with disability community and organizations of persons with disability, to empower us to be more cooperate, open, but also from victimhood to become game changers and game players, using all democratic mechanisms to submit more complaints and to stand in front for our rights. The other issue is that that we are missing a lot of promotion and cooperation with the UN agencies and also with other international and foundation and organizations who are working on different level, where they are missing to incorporate CRPD through the intersectional way, but also to understand and to implement our right as a human right diversity. The other very important issue, which I think why the states are not also but they are not fulfilling their obligation from CRPD, is that because they are not seeing us, they are not seeing disability as a human right diversity. And from other sides, we are not part of any story of the humankind. We are not part of the political story, financial, military, if you want, development stories or other challenges that in the future will be face the world. In that sense, I think that the committee need to strengthen the legal capacity and their legal work to work and to issued more general recommendation where disability and the CRPD will be postulated as the one through the all human right postulate should be read it. And just for the general comments, I think that in the future, and it's necessary, CRPD to be issue a general recommendation for Article 29. For Article 30, considering the cultural right, but as a minority right. And also, I think it's very important to be open the issue about international cooperation, Article 32, since there are a lot of international funds that are not following the CRPD promotion. And important, the access to justice, where unfortunately, judicial infrastructure is not a recognized CRPD. Sorry.
Well, we are facing many challenges at the global level, like climate change, like digital transformation. At the same time, we are facing, as a persons with disabilities, many daily challenges to access to employment, to education, to health. So I think it's very important put closer the knowledge of the organization of persons with disabilities and the capacity of state parties in order to address all the challenges from a mainstream perspective. So in this sense, I think that it's very important to take in advantage from the Article 32, international cooperation, to provide support to the state parties and to the organization of persons with disabilities to become stronger and to have the possibility to address all of these issues from a common perspective and a transversal perspective. At the same time, work together with other treaty bodies. It's very important to introduce the disability perspective as a transversal approach among the United Nations treaty bodies. Regarding the general comments, I would like to introduce the idea to prepare a general comment on social protection systems, because in general, these kind of systems are in crisis around the world. So I think it's a huge opportunity to the CRPD committee to provide guidelines towards a new social protection systems from a CRPD perspective, from a social human rights approach, ensure the persons with disabilities could be included in the future in this kind of social protection systems. So the Article 28 would be a good topic to prepare a general comments to provide these kind of guidelines to the state parties. Thanks.